Okay. What kind of tea you drinking tonight,
Oh shoot, I
Casey?
gotta make some. I haven't made my
Oh
tea
no,
yet.
I'm teasing. I mean, I have water here too. I'm just teasing. It's just Tuesday
Uh,
tea talk, so
yeah, I know. I know it is. I have CCF tea though. I'll put it on.
No,
CCF
no,
is the cumin, coriander, fennel.
oh yeah. Are you going to mix any of that up for the market?
Yeah, I mix them up now and sell them like the little packets.
Yeah,
So I have that, and I have oils that I just sell, and then people I work with, I um
cool.
give it to them, and then people who want to do a cleanse, it's part of the cleanse. So
Yeah, I seen your cleanse thing coming up. I shared it
yeah,
for you, so that way
thank
get
you.
it
I
out, get
appreciate
the
it.
word out there. Yeah,
Yeah, I just want to make it accessible to everyone.
I think that's neat. That's a good idea. So, well, happy St. Patrick's Day. Are you wearing green?
I am. I actually didn't even plan it because I didn't remember, but I just happened to wear green scrubs today at work.
Ah, well, no pinches for you.
Yeah.
Well,
You got
I don't know about you, but this time of year always kind of feels like winter is, kind of letting down its grip just a little bit. Although
yeah.
yesterday here in southern Illinois was a little bit rocky
Yeah.
with all the snow we had. And then last night it was freezing temperatures. So hopefully by the weekend, that'll be all gone. I think it's supposed to be like 80 this weekend. So the weatherman says, don't quote me on that.
I know. I was afraid a lot of the like blooming trees would die and stuff, but everything
Yep.
seems to look okay.
I'm really surprised too, because and with that wind that we had,
Yeah.
that usually knocks all the
Knocks
way.
them.
But I have seen a couple that still have the blooms on, which is nice because I love seeing those trees. Those are the prettiest
Yeah,
ones.
that's my favorite part
And
about spring.
I know everything's coming to life, right?
Yeah.
The grass is getting a lot greener, and you see all those little tiny buds all over all the branches. It's like,
I love them.
yay!
The red buds are my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. I've got actually my stepmom gave me a red bud tree. It's looking pretty good.
Aw.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's signs of spring are all over the place. And if you're like me, gardener, what's happening. You're getting the itch and the urge and get your hands back in the soil. I know I am.
Yeah.
Um, and the seed catalogs for me, they came about a month ago. So, and I've seen some of your starts. You've got some starts going,
Yep.
right? Yep.
I bought starts. I bought more seeds. I bought a bunch of plants already that I didn't need because it's only March, but
Well,
I'll keep them
you're just
moving here.
being proactive.
Yeah.
Well, I
I
have
go
about
crazy every year.
500-ish, now probably around 500-ish seedlings in the greenhouse this year. I actually calmed down a little bit instead of last year I had around 800 to 1,000. This year I'm putting the brakes on because
Yeah.
I had to throw a lot of them away and I hate doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Dang.
yeah, I know. But anyways, so this time of the year is when, the gardeners wake up, everybody, if you're not a gardener, you're waking up right along with the earth because the earth is waking up as well, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. I'm going to switch things up just a little bit and talk about something that I don't feel like gets near enough attention when it comes to gardening, but I do believe it's the foundation of having a healthy garden, and that's your soil.
Oil?
Yep.
Yeah.
Soil health is super important. A lot of people will focus on, oh, my plant looks like this, but they're not really seeing what's happening underneath the soil. Or, my pepper is only the size of a quarter, but they're not seeing what's happening underneath the soil. And that actually can tie in with the nutrition side of it too, because as you know, if your soil is depleted, well, the nutritional content of your fruit that you're getting is going to be depleted as well.
Yeah, no, I need to get a notebook.
Oh, I can wait just a little bit.
Oh no, you're good. I just
Oh, okay.
will need to take notes about soil because that's what I
That's what
am
you.
lacking in too, probably. I mean, we have a compost pile, but we didn't turn it a whole lot this winter, so we don't have
So,
a
do you
lot.
have a thermometer in it?
No.
Okay. Usually, you can tell how hot it's getting, and
Okay.
when it's getting hot. I think they have actually compost thermometers that you can put in there. Uh,
Oh,
but so back to the nutrition side, if I kind of like to compare because I am a nutritional gardener and I compare
Mhm.
health to gardening. So, just like our gut health, that's our foundation for our health, right? So, if
Mhm.
our gut is messed up and dysregulated, well, then our health is going to be all over the place too. Same for the soil. So, your soil health is the foundation for your garden. If your soil is not healthy, your plants are going to struggle, whether that be pest pressure, diseases, or anything like that. You're going to see some
Mhm.
struggle, or just not producing fruits. It's not getting enough nutrients. So, um, tonight, we're going to talk about what soil really is, why it matters so much in your garden, and why the way we treat the soil can completely change the success that you have in your garden. But first of all, I always have to introduce myself because I do record this for everybody. So, my name is Nikki, and I am your nutritional gardener, and I help you grow your health from the ground up by teaching you how to grow nutrient dense food and to balance the pillars of wellness through gardening. So, that being said, first thing first, soil is not dirt. I always irritates me so much when people say, "What kind of dirt you using?" I don't use dirt. Dirt is dead. It has no life in it. Soil is living. So a lot of people think that soil is just ground up rocks and plants and that just sits in the soil. But soil actually is in a complete living ecosystem. Scientists have actually found that just like our gut microbiome, it has millions of organisms. Well, a handful of soil can have up to a billion different living organisms. And that is, and I can't even fathom that whenever you think about it. Um, some of the, and they're all working together. It's like a perfect little system working together. Some of the things that you'll find in the soil is things like bacteria and fungi, protozoa, nematodes, even earthworms and arthropods, which are tiny little insects that crawl all over the place. I'm sure you've seen them. Um, but they're so small. Some of them are so small that you can't actually see with your eye. You would have to put them underneath a microscope to see them. But they're all doing their job. And their main job is basically to break down all of this organic matter, like your compost that you put on top, or if you layer your top with grass clippings or dead leaves, even the plant roots itself. Um, from a dead plant. That's why I always leave my plants in my garden over the winter because that actually is food for the microorganisms in the soil. So it breaks down and feeds them. Um, so whenever um, they are breaking down this material, they're going to release things for your plant to absorb. So there is this myth, the garden myth, and I know a lot of people use it, and that is fine. But they'll put like an egg underneath their tomato plant. Well, that tomato plant cannot eat that egg. It doesn't have a mouth and it cannot break down that egg. The roots don't break that down. So what happens, I mean, there's other things that people like people put a banana peel in it. Well, what happens is it can't feed the plant with that food scraps. It has to be broken down and composted with um, all of the microorganisms in the soil. So it has to be broken down before the plant can actually absorb it. So it'll release things like you've heard, I'm sure you've seen NPK, which is your nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. That's in the main ingredients of your soil. But there's also certain trace minerals as well. So basically, the soil life is the way the food for the plant is processed. So without them, they can't process the food in order to ingest it. Now, I especially like the fungi because I think it's the most interesting part of the soil. Um, and what the fungi does is actually creates this network. And I'm sure maybe or maybe not you've heard of mycorrhizal fungi. So, no. So, mycorrhizal fungi is basically a fungus that will create a network. And this is like a thread that connects from the plant root and it helps absorb nutrients and water. So, um, it's kind of like the communication system between plants. So they can actually connect from plant to plant and communicate with each other, bring nutrients up. It's pretty interesting stuff, but you can go down a rabbit hole pretty quick with this when it comes to the scientific part of it. So a quick comparison, I guess, would be, like your healthy gut microbiome. You have all of these things working, and your biology in your gut is balanced. Everything in your body functions better, right? So the microbes will break down the food, your nutrients gets absorbed way more efficiently, um, and just your whole system becomes way healthier. Um, Well, if you apply that to soil, it's exactly the same way. So the soil biology, when it's thriving and it's working and it's doing its job, well, all of your plants are going to be working too because it's going to be absorbing all the nutrients that it needs. So another thing that people may or may not understand is um, that soil naturally forms in layers. Like you've probably seen the pictures of soil and there's different colors. Or maybe you've done the jar test, the soil test, where you can see how much sand, silt, and clay, so the layers of the soil. So this process actually happens over a long period of time. This is what happens. It's slow process through nature. Your plants grow, they die, they decompose, rocks get weathered, and all this microbial activity happens. So um, the layers of the soil, if we were starting at the top, would be your organic layer. Okay. This is all the things that you add or is added to the top. Think of things like leaves falling from the tree, your plants, your dead plants and the debris from your plants, the mulch that you may put on your beds or the compost that you put on your bed. All of these things are the organic layer. That's the top layer. And what happens is this breaks down and becomes part of the soil. But right below that is the topsoil. Now, this is the most important layer for gardening. The topsoil is where all of the plant roots, I shouldn't say all because you can have some plant roots that go down deeper, but most plant roots will say that. Um, a main majority of plant roots will live in the topsoil level. So, and this is where all of that microbial life that we talked about, that's where all of this exists. And this is the most nutrient part of your layers of soil. So this is where all your nutrients are concentrated in, is in the topsoil. If you go out and you grab soil from your garden, you have your organic layer, but if you get down to your topsoil layer, it should look really dark and crumbly, and it should have a lot of organic matter in it. So you can usually tell by the way even your topsoil smells can give you a sense of how healthy it is. Below the topsoil level, this is where your subsoil is. Now, this is where those trace minerals are. There's a little bit less organic matter, but this is really where the support system. So, this is your foundation of the soil layers. This is where all of the mycorrhizal network that I talked about. So, some of the roots from certain plants can't reach down into that subsoil layer. So they need this network of mycorrhizal fungi to bring that nutrients up to the top. So that way these plants can get all these little trace minerals that sometimes, most of the time, are lacking. And I'll explain why in just a minute. But this, like I say, it provides the structure for the plant itself, and where all of the biological activity really is. So something really important though that nature can teach us if we just look is it builds the soil from the top down. We don't build the soil from the bottom up, it builds from the top down. Leaves fall, land on the top. The plants die, they decompose on the top. And over time, this material is accumulated and it breaks down, becomes the topsoil, then becomes the subsoil. So it just keeps layering until it uses the nutrients up, becomes subsoil. Makes sense? All right. So let's see here. The idea is really important when we talk about gardening practices, because traditional gardening actually can interrupt the nature's process. So for a long time, and still today, a lot of people use the standard practice of tilling their soil every single year. A lot of people do it. And I understand the reasoning behind it. So a lot of people will do it because um, they they need to break up all that compaction, especially around here. We have a lot of clay, which clay is actually has a lot of minerals in it. It's just we the plants can't extract it. So that's a whole other topic we can talk about another time. But basically, tilling, they like to break that up. It makes it look nice and fluffy, and it's way easier to plant in. So I get it. But, scientists have discovered the more they have studied the biology of soil more closely and realized that, interesting enough, when you turn the soil over several times, not so great things happen. First, the natural layers that we talked about becomes mixed together. Take your house and just shake it all up. Your refrigerator's in your bathroom, it's not in the right place, right? So that's exactly what we do whenever we start tilling the soil. We're putting microbes in the wrong place. We're putting nutrients in the wrong place. We're putting weed seeds on the top. We're doing all of this when nature has its own way of doing it and it's perfected. So, like I said, we talked about the organic matter sitting on the top and the minerals sitting below. Well, when we till, we're combining all of this together. That it just doesn't work right. It also breaks those fungal networks that I talked about, pulling that nutrients up to the soil. It completely breaks those up. So then the fungi has to go to work again, trying to rebuild that. By the time that they rebuild that, boom, we're tilling it again. So we are destructing the soil, and we're never really getting it to go to work. Um, it is those mycorrhizal fungi will go way deep down into the ground. So if we break those connections, then we don't have the communication between the plants or anything like that. So even the water retention is different. So the third thing is the microbiome, my let's see, microbial. Am I saying that right? Microbial. Yeah. So the microbes that live in the soil, we'll say it that way. So they're going to die. They're going to be flipped upside down. We're going to disturb that balance. Earthworms don't like to live on the top of the soil. They're going to die. They're going to dry out. They have a certain place in the soil that they thrive. So when we take them out of their natural habitat, so to speak, they're not going to be able to live very long. Another thing that happens is all this organic matter, when we start flipping it over and over, what happens whenever you flip your compost bin? What's that do, Casey?
Sorry. I aerates it.
So basically, it'll flip it over and it oxidizes it. So it
Oh,
speeds up the breakdown process of that organic matter.
oh, okay.
So that's why we flip it, is so that way we can get more air in it and it starts oxidizing. It starts breaking that down quicker. Well, we don't want to necessarily do that because we're not making a compost pile. We want to slowly pull that nutrients out of the soil,
Right.
or the plants. The plants need that nutrients and that organic matter in the soil so that way they can pull out from it. So,
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah. I was
I
gonna
mean, it's
ask
kind
if
of,
I'm supposed to be turning my compost then.
yeah. Yeah, because that will break down the organic matter. Because what happens is if you put some of that organic matter and it's not broken down completely, then it can actually steal nutrients from the soil. So we want
Oh,
it to be completely broke down, because when
right.
we put that onto our bed, well, then it'll start breaking down in our bed. Well, that will steal nutrients from the soil as well. So
Gotcha.
we want to make sure it's good and broken down first. And
Yeah.
then the final process will be whenever it's in the soil and it's pulling the plants are pulling the nutrients from it.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so let's see. We talked about organic matter oxidizing. So, and I talked about how when the air gets exposed from tilling, it'll lose its structure. So, we had that foundation. Well, when we flip that to the top, there's no structure. So that's why sometimes your plants will fall over way more easily whenever you have that really loomy soil, because there's no structure, there's no bottom. The weed seeds, they're going to pull from the bottom and they're going to flip to the top. Well, seeds, what do they need to germinate? They need light, air, and water. So they're going to
Hmm.
get pulled to the top. That's why a lot of times you have to continue to till or to weed whenever you have a tilled garden, because you're constantly flipping those seeds to the top. Where
Yeah.
whenever you layer, you're hiding them from the sun so they cannot produce
Yeah.
or they can't
Oh,
germinate. Yep.
yeah.
And whenever you're constantly flipping, well, then you're losing you're losing your organic matter. You're losing your your microbial life. So then, what's going to happen in order for these plants to get nutrients is you're going to have to start giving it a synthetic fertilizer, which we don't want to do that, right? We don't want to rely our plants to rely on synthetic fertilizers. We can't live on supplements alone. We need nutrients. Well, plants can't live on supplemented fertilizers alone. They can live, but they're not going to thrive like they would in if they were balanced. So, tilling can be a temporary fix. So it can look good on the surface, but it's really going to degrade your soil if you consistently till. That's why a lot of times you'll see whenever gardens are tilled, you can tell it's almost like a bowl. Have
Yeah.
you noticed that? Because
Yeah.
they are losing the topsoil. Every time they till, they're losing a little bit of topsoil. Instead of layering, when you keep layering, you're going to almost have a mound. So
Yeah.
that's that's where you get issues, especially you'll get issues with draining and everything like that. So there's just a lot of reasons to not till.
Yeah.
Now, not personally, now I'm sure some old time farmers will tell me that I'm crazy, but science is science and it's out there. So we don't want to disrupt the natural processes of nature. So now, because of what I understand about soil biology, and a lot of gardeners are starting to switch to the no-till garden method, which is what I definitely teach all of my clients to do. Um, no-till is a very simple process. Um, Basically, instead of disrupting the soil, you're focusing on building and protecting the soil. So the idea is to basically feed the soil and then let the soil feed your plants. Some of the uh, basic simple practices: adding compost. I add compost. Usually I add it in the fall. A lot of people say in the spring, but where we are at, a lot of times the compost is not 100% ready. A lot of times it comes in hot. So I always put it on in the fall and let it finish. And then usually by the spring, it's ready to go.
That's a good
It
idea.
depends. Yeah, it depends on your area. It depends on where you get your compost, especially if you're making it. You can definitely tell when it's done and
Yeah.
ready. But adding any kind of organic matter, I'm a fan of green composting. So a cover crop and then layering it or knocking it over and then using that as your mulch, and then disrupting the soil as little as possible. So this is kind of mimicking what nature does. So when you go walk in a forest or walk in the woods, um, you're going to see all of the leaves on the ground, all of this organic matter that's built up. You know, over time, you're going to see the soil will become way more fertile, because if you go and start pulling the organic matter away from the soil in the woods or in a forest, you're going to see that it is really dark, rich, fertile soil. So that's kind of what the no-till process models is nature's process. So
Hmm.
um, when you do this, the soil that is in your garden beds are going to retain moisture better. So I have had people tell me, "Oh my gosh, I've had to water so much." I will tell you, I have four 55-gallon drums that I catch water catchment, and usually in a year's time with my size garden, I maybe will empty one or two.
Wow.
So watering is I really don't have to water that often, because it holds the moisture so much, but not to the point where starts rotting your roots out either, because it's not setting in soil, but it's got such organic matter in it that it almost becomes like a sponge.
You
So
have like those big blue barrels that,
Mhm.
yeah, I thought about getting one of those.
Yeah, so I have four of those that were connected to my greenhouse. And usually in spring, I mean, one rain and they're filled up.
We also have a water trough that it's filled up because we use it for the animals and throughout the winter. I wonder if that would work for
Yeah.
less
Yeah, because it
mosquitoes.
catches rain. Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to, we'll just put you an aerator in it.
aerator or
Or
fish.
is that what's called? Aerator. Yeah. Yeah. You know, like they put in ponds.
Yeah, okay.
So
All
that
right,
might help get rid of
cool.
some because it's not stagnant.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Okay.
but yeah, so that's, you know, that's one of that's one of the perks about not having to till. And the weeds, of course. I mean, I don't want to sit and pick weeds for hours a day. So, along with, you know, the intense planting, you know, planting your stuff closer together, which I'll talk about here in just a second. But it
Yeah.
blocks whenever you're layering your mulch or laying your compost on the top, then the sunlight can't reach those weed seeds. So, um, the soil structure also 100%. It won't be, instead of it being like hard compacted clay, you're going to get
Yeah.
more soil aggregates in the soil. So these are just like small little clumps of soil particles that are held
Mhm.
together, and all of it's held together by the microbes, all of that activity underneath it. So, um, the aggregates themselves, they'll help, you know, move water through the soil and, you know, help allow your roots to grow way easy. And over time, all of this dark, rich soil, it's because of the no-till garden. It's because of all of this, all of the soil aggregates. Um, so healthy soil definitely leads to healthier plants. I say that that's one of the things I constantly am telling everybody is, you know, healthy soil will create healthy plants. Healthy plants will create healthy humans. So, now there is something really important that a lot of people miss when it comes to no-till gardening. Um, and I mean, I assume that it I mean we shouldn't ignore this completely. We shouldn't just how do I say that? You're not going to till your garden, but you definitely still need air in your garden.
Mhm.
Um, so the soil definitely needs oxygen. The plant roots need oxygen. All the microbes need oxygen. Earthworms, arthropods, all of that still needs oxygen. So you can't just keep layering because eventually it will become compacted. The earthworms definitely do help loosen that up,
Yeah.
and the microbes will do that. But we want to try to aerate the soil without flipping it entirely. There is several ways to do this. A broad fork is a good one to use. It's basically like a big fork you stand on, and you kind of it has two poles, and you kind of wiggle back and forth on it.
Yeah, I
So
think
that
I've seen it.
have you seen those? So it just kind of loosens the soil, but you don't want to flip the soil over completely. Now, I've used just a regular pitchfork before as well because my garden beds are a little smaller. So, and
Mhm.
that works fine too. You can usually get that down far enough to just kind of wiggle it back and forth and get some tunnels through there so that way water can get completely down there. We can get oxygen down there and your plant roots themselves, so that way they can and actually plant roots can help. Like I know, is it daikon radishes? I believe a lot of people will plant those because they're really big, and it
Oh
makes
yeah.
basically tunnels in the ground to improve aeration. So, um, now I have actually planted before too in the fall, like carrots and radishes like that, and then let them go and let them die off. So whenever they decompose, they will create tiny little channels too,
Nice.
because of where they've grown and then they've died off. So that channel will still be there, and that'll help water and air move. So, and worms do a lot. I mean, I can't, if you have earthworms, that's definitely a plus. And they also fertilize as well, right? All the
Yeah.
worm castings. So,
Hmm.
um, like I say, just avoid turning it completely. Just give it some aeration. Now, another topic that comes up a lot with people is whether you should do a raised bed or directly in the ground. Now, the truth is, both methods will work completely fine. There are some advantages of both. Raised beds, are really nice whenever if you have somebody that can't bend down really well, and wants to save their back. I do not suggest getting the raised beds that are completely raised where there's just legs and then a container. I really believe that we need all the microbial life that is in the ground to come up into our beds. Because what do we do when we get those containers is we go to a big box store and we buy potting soil. Well, there's no earthworms getting up in there. There is no
Yeah.
arthropods getting it in there. So I suggest doing like if and especially if you're going to do a taller one, do like the hugelkultur. I think I say that right. Bed where you layer like big logs, sticks, organic matter, and then put in your topsoil. So you're basically layering it, and then it slowly breaks down.
Yeah.
That way, you're not spending a ton of money on just soil to fill it up.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing to think about whenever you're doing raised beds. Another thing that is good about raised beds is the soil does warm up a lot faster. Drainage is usually way better, and you kind of have a lot more control over the soil that you do put in your beds. So um, they usually look a lot more aesthetically pleasing because they're more organized, and you can have your arches, and they're just kind of more aesthetic. Um,
Yeah.
but you can still have the same amount of production in a raised bed as you can in a in-ground garden.
Okay.
I have had a lot of success in my raised beds. Some of the most successful and productive gardens are in raised beds. Now, in-ground gardening does have its advantages too. It is way less expensive, so you don't have the materials of making the bed. You don't have the soil to fill the beds. You do have a little more growing space, kind of, but then you're working directly with the natural ecosystem that's existing around you. You're not bringing in anything else, and you can definitely use the no-till garden, the layering and composting in ground as well. Um, but you can still grow a huge amount of food either way, whether you decide to do it in an intense gardening method in your raised beds or you do it in the ground. It's completely up to you. We bought this field next to us, and I'm actually going to do some market style in ground beds over here, but I'm still going to use the no till method. So you
Cool.
can use the no till method either way. It just depends solely on you and your budget and your body and
Yeah.
everything. So it's individual. Everything, anything to do with your garden is going to be individual because it's going to be your style. So, um, one
You always,
thing, what is that?
I was just gonna say, do you always use cardboard when you? Okay.
Yes, I always do just because it's kind of giving a bedding for those earthworms to come up to.
Mhm.
That's kind of your weed suppressor as well. So if you are going to like the beds that I'm going to put out here, I'm going to layer with cardboard first, and then I'm going to wet it down, and then I'll put my compost on top of that. It
Okay.
so the actual topsoil will be underneath that cardboard because we're putting the organic matter on the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but that just gives basically entices the earthworms to come to that surface because it's wet, it's cool, and it's where they like to live. So that's I always do the cardboard method, and even sometimes throughout the year, my grandma would always put newspapers, which I don't know that
Yeah.
we even get newspapers anymore, but that's what she would layer around like her plants because it would suppress, but it would also decompose back into the earth. So
Yeah.
it wasn't anything that would be hard. Like a lot of people will put like mulch. I am not a fan of mulch in my beds. I like mulch in the walkways, but I'm not a fan of it in my beds
So what do you
because
put? What do you put over the cardboard?
compost.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll put a layer of compost. So um, usually around 2 to 3 inches thick is what I'll start with a compost. And then once it gets wet down, and then I plant directly into it. So
what about
I'll put the Hmm.
What about the weeds? They grow on the compost or?
No, because every year you're going to put a layer of compost on top. So if it's composted correctly and it's getting up to the highest temperature it needs to, your weed seeds cannot survive.
Okay.
So that's the thing when it comes to compost. There is an art to composting. That might be something I talk about in a future
Yeah.
video because
'Cause I
it
thought you had to
definitely,
do
there's
that.
an art to it, and you have to get it up to a certain degree in order for it to kill all of that off. So you can put anything into your compost. I mean,
You need to
as some
sell
people,
compost.
I need a bigger place to sell compost. I would need a whole lot more organic matter to be able to do
Yeah.
compost. But I've told my husband, I was like, that's what we need to do. You could ride on a tractor all day. You could flip the compost. He's like, no.
Yeah.
He wasn't having it, but I don't know. I think it's a great idea.
Mhm.
But anyway, so one of the things that, like, back to the raised beds and in ground, is I said something about the intense planning or intensive planning is, and there's several ways to say that, but basically what you're doing is you're growing your crops a little bit closer than what is suggested. But just remember the roots of the soil is not the same size as the plant on top.
Mhm.
So you may have a soil ball that's about this big, and you may have a 6 foot tall plant, or
Yeah.
you may have the roots of a carrot or you know, a daikon radish that goes way down, but then you'll have a top this big. So be mindful of what's underneath the soil, and then you can plant them a lot closer together. So
Yeah.
um, that's a good way, that's another way that it shades the soil so your weeds don't grow. So
Okay.
again, if the weed seeds don't have light, they're not going to grow. Keeps the moisture in whenever you intense plant like this. And you can get a whole lot more food in a smaller space. So a method that a lot of people is familiar with is like square foot gardening, like how like you cut your garden bed into squares, like a square foot. And then I think I actually have a chart on my website. I'll share that into the Facebook group because
Okay.
like I have how many like radish seeds to grow in that square or how many
Mm.
tomato plants you can grow in that square. So you can really intense plant and put those really close together.
Cool. Okay.
Another
I always wondered that if you could plant them a little closer than what it says on the.
Oh yeah. Yeah, don't go by that. Go by your experience. Because that's just as I mean, every gardener has had their own experience in different ways. That is a suggestion, and I know I shouldn't say it's a suggestion though, because you can grow these plants. I have grown so many plants close together, and well, just like companion planting, you've heard of companion planting.
Yeah.
That's where you grow, like, you grow lettuce underneath a taller plant, or
Hmm.
your basil.
Pollinated.
Yeah, yeah. So that helps with pollination for sure. But you can put carrots and onions beside each other, or throw some herbs in, like your basil around your tomatoes. So that is a way that you can utilize every bit of space in your garden, um, every square inch of it, basically, to get a more
Yeah.
productive garden. All right. So basically, other than that, I'm just going to bring this whole conversation again back to health because, I'm the nutritional gardener, so I got to throw some health in there sometimes. Um, so I said earlier that when your soil is healthy, your plants grow better. When your plants grow better in the healthy soil, they tend to have a higher nutrient level. So, and all
Mhm.
those nutrients is what we need to feed us, so to fuel our bodies. And it's kind of just, a really beautiful chain of events that happens. Healthy soil creates healthy plants create, all this nutrient dense food. The nutrient dense food helps support the health of people. So it's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So take care of your soil, and then your garden will take care of you.
Awesome.
So yeah. Yeah. So I like to hear from everybody. I know you're growing a garden this year, right?
Right.
Uh, do you do raised bed and in-ground garden, or
Um,
just do raised bed?
the raised beds are just like 2x4s, so it's not very
Yeah.
raised, but it's like a little up.
Yeah, I would consider that still a raised bed though, because you
Okay.
have a structure. I would consider that. It's in ground, but you have a structure around it. So I
Right.
would still consider that a slight raised bed.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
And you do the no-till method too?
Yes. And yeah, last year the re weeds really took over, so I need to do more, I guess, cardboard and maybe compost on that and try because I was
Okay.
gonna do mulch. We got a bunch of free mulch coming, so
So the thing is with mulch is you can definitely do mulch.
okay.
However, you do not want to get any of those big pieces of mulch under. And that's why I don't like mulch because it's really hard to not bury that mulch. So, because what happens is that will break down and it'll steal your nutrients from your soil.
Oh,
So that's why, but if you can get that mulch out of the way and plant in it, by all means do that. Um, it's People do it all the time. I don't suggest hay. Straw is not another one of my favorites because a lot of that has weed seeds in it.
that's what I used a lot of straw in my walkways because it we
Yeah,
had it.
right. And in your walkways are okay, but you're going to have weed seeds with that. So,
Yeah.
I would try planting a little bit more intense planting. Try that a little bit more.
Closer together.
Yep, closer together.
Because
And
a lot of
um,
what I do is I wait for things to pop up. I got a lot of herbs that are
mhm,
perennials, so I just kind of plant around them.
yep.
So
And you still had a lot of weed pressure that way too
what's
in
that?
all of your bed. I said you still had a lot of weed pressure planting that close together.
Yeah.
Hmm. So was you able to see the soil around the plants?
Yeah, I mean, I would try to keep it picked, but it got pretty thick. Yeah, they kind of they they got pretty tall this year, and I just kind of gave up on it.
Really?
Yeah.
And you only used compost in your beds, or did you
I
use
mean,
straw?
yeah, potting soil and compost that we had. So, yeah.
Okay,
So, yeah.
check your compost and make sure that you're getting it hot enough.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, all we're
get
doing
you
is
it.
just like layering stuff. So I just throw garden
Mhm.
stuff. Sometimes we'll throw, animal poop and
Okay.
straw and stuff
So,
on there.
so you got to remember that whenever whatever your animals eat comes out
Seed.
in their poop. So they will eat seeds, and if those seeds are not killed off in the process of composting,
Uh-huh.
you're putting those weed seeds in your garden.
That's what happened then. I gotta let it get hot enough. So I just need to get a thermometer.
Yeah, I would try that and keep layering. And you can use cardboard around your plants if you want to, or like
Do that.
I homeschool the girls, so we have a lot of papers, but don't make sure there's not a lot of dye or anything on them. But we just use black ink and white paper, and then I'll shred it up and I'll use that on my plants too.
Oh, okay.
So that's an idea for you. But
Cool.
yeah, try to do a little bit more intense planning to where
Yeah.
you're not,
Close.
if you look over top of it, you should not see any soil.
Okay.
So if you're looking from above, you should not be able to see any of the ground
All
underneath.
right. Cool. That drowns
Yeah.
out the light of
Mhm.
the weeds. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I have a
Um,
pH tester too, soil pH
yeah.
tester. Is that what?
So that'll tell you what the pH of your soil is. So certain plants need certain pH.
Oh, right, right.
Um, that's all it's going to tell you. It's not going to tell you how much nitrogen or
Mhm.
phosphorus or potassium is in there. It's not going to tell you any of the trace minerals. That's just going to tell you
Yeah.
the pH level.
I think we
So,
got it
but
because
that's
blueberries need to be
yes,
acidic. Yeah. Okay.
correct, correct. Yeah. And yeah, definitely test your soil before you do any kind of planting on blueberries because they are finicky
Okay.
and it's hard to keep our soil around here. It's really hard to keep it acidic because
Yeah.
it wants to pull back alkaline because it is such heavy dense clay.
Hmm.
So
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
there's some things that you can do though, to put with the soil and keep amending around your blueberry plants. But yeah.
Okay.
All right. So if any of you guys watching this later on would like to answer any of those questions about your gardening, what are you doing this year? What are you planting this year? Are you doing raised beds? Are you doing no-till? Please go over there, hop on my Facebook group, answer some of these questions, and feel free to let me know of any kind of topics that you would like to see on these Tuesday tea chats. I would love to get some feedback from y'all so that way I know what you would like me to bring for you. So anyway, I'm glad you came and see me tonight, Casey, and I'm glad y'all are watching later on at home, and I will see you all next week. I hope y'all are a little more comfortable with understanding what soil health is and how important it is too. So anyways, I'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
good
Bye-bye.
time.